All right. Good morning, everyone watching. Let me a few more windows, and then we ready to go. I think page set offline for a second. Streaming, so I have this. I think we're probably all right. All right. Let's see. We don't need up. Don't really need this one. Well, I want to put that one actually. Oh, that's gonna be. All right. Welcome. Thanks for watching, first of all, anyone watching. And if you are new and haven't caught the live stream before, my name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. Let's see here. I usually stream around this time each week, 10 a.m. Central Time, usually working on some stuff related to CircuitPython. If you are, in fact, new and you don't know what CircuitPython is, you'll learn more at the main website for it, circuitpython.org. For anyone who's not new, you may notice the new circuitpython.org. Shout out to, I think, Justin Cooper, maybe? Forgive me if I'm wrong on the name, but there is someone working hard on a redesign for circuitpython.org, and it recently was merged so that we can actually see it here on the live page now. So this is looking a bit different than it has in the past streams, which is cool. I think this is a nice new layout. And I think this thing will trade out. Like if I refresh or if you come back at a different time, like I think these photos here trade out. Anyway, back to the introduction at hand, circuitpython.org. This is where you can learn more about the project. It is basically a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers, which you can see over here on the downloads page, a bunch of pictures of those devices. The CircuitPython is just one of the ways that you can program these devices. There are lots of others. If you choose to use CircuitPython the way it typically works, you plug it into your computer. It shows up like a thumb drive with a Python code file on it. You can edit that Python code file and save it, and when you do, the microcontroller, the actual computer that's in these little chips, will execute the Python code for you. And then the code itself can interface with all sorts of other doodads connected to the microcontroller. These things typically are connected to sensors or inputs like switches, buttons, levers, all kinds of stuff, knobs, anything like that, or outputs like LEDs or screens or speakers or things of that nature. So these microcontrollers are very general, and CircuitPython is just a way to write code that uses the microcontroller to interface with other bits of hardware. Today, I'm going to be working on a Fruit Jam device, although the actual code that I'm working on could run also on a Metro RP 2350. Ultimately, it will go up in a guide for this Metro RP 2350, I believe. That's the plan, at least. It will involve a little bit of extra hardware because ultimately we're going to want to get to 2 mice, which means we need a mouse hub, or a USB hub, I should say. Whereas this Metro only has 1 set of pins there, so we're going to break those out to a hub so that we can have 2 mice, whereas the Fruit Jam actually just has the 2 USB ports already broken out with a hub. In any case, we are implementing the card game set. So if I search for like set card game, Wikipedia, brings us here, which is the game that I am working on. It is basically a card game about finding matching sets, and then matching sets either, well, maybe I shouldn't call them matching sets per se, but either matching or completely unmatching. So the idea is to deal out a grid of cards. You start with 12. In fact, I could show you the window here where I've got it rendered. You start with 12, and then multiple players play this game, so it's 2 to many players, and you all look at the cards that are laid out and try to find sets. And sets are any 3 cards that either share the same of all of their property, like I probably can't describe it in the best way, but their properties either have to all match or all be different. In the base game, there are 4 different properties. The shape that is on the card, so some of them have this rounded sort of pill shape, some of them have the diamonds, and some of them have the squiggle. So that's 3 different shapes that are possible. The counts, some cards just have 1 shape, some cards have 2, some cards have 3. The fill, some shapes are just outline only, some shapes are filled in all the way, like those, and then some shapes are striped. And then the color, there's red, purple, and green shapes. And so there's different permutations of all of those things for each color, for each fill, for each shape, and for each count. And your goal is to find 3 such that all of the properties are the same or all of the properties are different within each category. So each property has to be the same or different between the 3 cards you find. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, I will say there's great videos on YouTube that explain how to play, and then there is also this video which I want to make sure to mention, number file set card game. This video not only explains the game, how to play the game way better than I could, way better than I did. It also explains, starting around here, 5-ish minutes and 20 seconds or so, somewhere in that range, they start explaining a mathematical representation of the game. So the card game, with all the pictures of all the cards, is one way to think about the game. But math people have also broken the game down into just a numerical mathematical representation, and they have numbers to represent each of the different properties, and then there is a formula you can use to kind of check any 3 cards to decide if it is a set. So for instance, with the cards that are here, I believe one set that's on the board is this green rounded one, these 2 purple rounded ones, and those are both striped, and then these 3 red rounded ones. And before I click it, those should be a set because they're all 3 the same shape. They're all 3 the rounded shape. They're all 3 the same fill. They're all the striped ones. They are 3 different colors, red, green, purple, and they are 3 different counts, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to click the red one, and then the code actually does work. So it determined that they were a set, and it replaced the cards with new cards. And so in the traditional game, you would just keep playing, keep looking for sets, dealing out new cards as some cards get taken away. You keep the sets that you get, and then at the end of either one round through the deck or multiple rounds, if you want to play multiple rounds, you keep track of how many sets each person has found, and then whoever has the most sets wins. So we are working on the CircuitPython implementation of this game. And what I have so far, as you can see, obviously, the cards are laid out. You can click them. It does validate if you got a set of 3. Once you have clicked 3, it does not indicate which cards have been clicked yet. That's one thing I want to do today, potentially. And right now, it's only quote-unquote single player. There's just 1 mouse, 1 player. It's not even really keeping track of score. So at some point, this will be a 2-player game, or at least a 2-player optional game. Maybe I'm thinking about maybe making a setup screen where you could choose the number of players and maybe some other details. But definitely we want to be able to support 2 players. It'll either just always be 2 players, or it'll have the option to be 2 players. For that, there will be 2 mice. Yeah, so we have a lot of work to do. Basically, the only thing that's here now is rendering the cards and checking if they are a set or not. And then the no set button actually is the last thing that is currently implemented. And so in the game, what you can do is, if you decide as a group, if you all say there's no sets on the board, which right now that's not the case because there is another one here. So purple single diamond, green 2 diamonds, and red 3 diamonds all filled in is a set. But anyway, when you're playing the game, if you all decide, hey, there's no more sets, which again, that's not true because there is purple single squiggle, purple diamond 2 squiggle, not squiggle, but striped, and then 3 rounded striped. But anyway, I'll try to stop get distracted by finding sets. If you all decide there's no sets, then it will add more cards. It will deal more cards. And so the way that I'm going to do that in the game is with the no set button here. Right now, you can just click it and it will deal 3 new cards. You can click it again. It will deal 3 more new cards. And then if you click it again, it will actually redeal the entire board of 12. It will take everything away and deal out 12 new ones. However, as you might have noticed, it did those last 2 things pretty much all at once, which can be, in fact, the first thing we work on for today. I think that sounds like a good place to start because what we need to do is put a cooldown on the click of the button. And I already have cooldown variable and a last click time, so all I need to do is when the button is getting clicked, we want to also say and basically the same logic as up here, so I'll just copy it. And now minus the cooldown is greater than the last click time. So basically, have we waited the cooldown amount of time since the previous click or not? This way it won't be prone. It's kind of like a debouncing effect. It won't be prone to like double clicking if you happen to hold the button down for a 10th of a second or whatever. Okay, so no set. I'll click it 3 times again so we can see hopefully better now. Oh, it's actually just not working at all. Nice. Okay. Really? Did I miss a not maybe? Do we have a and now greater than? No, there's no not. Oh, also we need to set the time when we click it, but that makes sense why it didn't work at least once though, right? It should have worked at least once. Yeah, it's just not working at all. Oh. Does it print anything? It prints none. I think none. That must be... Oh, wait a minute. We should have already been in the cooldown, so maybe the cooldown is just not long enough? Yeah, we're already inside of the cooldown, so we need to be doing this. And then this failed because the cooldown was already reset up here. But then why is the cooldown need to be bigger? Did I really just hold it for 0.15? Maybe that's too short. I mean, So what happens actually is it's as you hold it and move. We kind of need like actual debouncing, I think. Because we don't really care at all. We want to ignore the mouse button being held down. We really want individual clicks only. We don't want to register like click and drag, for instance, as a bunch of clicks over and over, and we are right now. So we need to have some actual debouncing a little bit more for this. that we could maybe actually just use the debouncer library for this. I'm pretty sure you can pass a function to this. Yeah. I have an example of that. There is somewhere else. I don't know where it would be. Okay. But I think if we wanted to make this into debouncer, we actually we do need a function. So let's say def is left mouse clicked. And it will pretty much just be this. So then the code could now just say this, and it would work the exact same way as it did before. This doesn't solve our problem yet, but this gives us a function. And now that we have a function, we can create a debouncer and pass it the function. Left mouse click debounced. Debouncer, it's gonna have to be after the function, probably. Is we don't want to call it, we want to pass it. And be able to import this. Oh, no. I mean, there's some case to be made that the read should be inside of there. No, I don't think so, actually. I think we were always looking at the buffer, because the buffer's not going to change until it gets read again. The whole point is to filter out the... whole point is to filter out when it doesn't flop, basically. We want to only count it as a click if it was previously not clicked. We want specifically the change between not down and down when the mouse button goes down. So I think we're going to be able to get that by doing... So here we would say... Well, okay, so one problem actually is that if we continue here, that means... Is that what we want to do, or do we want to pass? We might not want to continue there. Maybe we do. I mean, if there's no new data, then that means there's no new anything. There's no new click. The click didn't change. The release didn't happen. So I think that should be fine, actually, to continue. So we want to now call left this update so that it will check the current buffer, which will be updated from this code right above it. And then here, instead of this, we would say left mouse click debounce probably rows, because we want to know when it went from false to true. Okay, didn't just immediately crash. So I should not be able to just click and drag and have it do, yeah, there we go. So my mouse has been down this whole time. I haven't released the button yet. And it's still like never will register another one unless if I release, and then now I'm going to click again. That's our second click, and I'm still holding and we're not getting repeat action, so that's good. Okay, so then when you click the third time, it resets the board, the initial board. Uh-oh, now the next clicks are broken though. I can't click again. Oh. Oh, I think actually... something's wrong. Maybe we shouldn't have the cooldown now. Because if we're specifically looking for the edge, then we don't really need the cooldown. Oh, something's just messed up. So weird. I don't understand. What it is about the times that it works versus the times that... So we called update. Is that not called update? Isn't that what we need to do? Dot update, switch dot fell, switch dot rows. See if we're getting in here and seeing true and false. So whenever we move the mouse, we do call that, and so far it's always been false. So there we got a mouse clicked true, but just straight up the board didn't do anything. Good morning, DJ Devin. So this part of the code knows the mouse got clicked, presumably returned true. Why did... Why does that not count as rows? Maybe I'm gonna ditch debouncer and just make code that does this potentially. I feel like debouncer is probably a more elegant solution, but if it's not gonna work and I have to like troubleshoot it, I think I could just troubleshoot the code I'm writing and I'll understand it better. So clicked was true inside of the function, but both rose and fell where they both remained false. Okay, you explicitly have to click and move. That's the action. You have to click and then drag the mouse. And then, I was about to say, and then it works reliably, but there was one that didn't actually there for a second. But it is now, I think. So it must be the continue somehow. Like, how terrible is it if we just pass right here? I have no idea. Click. Boom. I don't have any music. Okay, that is working a lot better. Click and drag also still is not broken. Okay, yeah, so I think continue. We probably just didn't want continue there. This is fine now. Okay. Music. Like that or not. Okay. I don't actually need these anymore. Eventually we're gonna get into right mouse clicks, but we'll worry about that in a little bit. Also don't need these. We don't really need last click time anymore, I don't think, because we're not going to be doing our own cooldown. In fact, we're not going to be doing a cooldown at all. We're going to say you can go as fast as you can go as long as you're actually releasing the mouse and clicking again and then presumably moving it to somewhere else, because there's not going to be very many things, if any at all, that actually do anything if you click them twice. Like, I'm clicking this twice and it's going on, but eventually when the game is two-player, my intention is that these are like a vote, essentially. Each player will have to click this, and then once all players have clicked, then it will take action. Because one player could be like, I don't think there's any sets, and another player could be like, I do think there's still sets, so I want to keep looking before we add cards. And then only when there's a consensus, they'll add cards. Or maybe we could put a timer or something eventually, but anyway. It won't be able to be spammable, really. And the cards are the same way. If you click the same card twice, it just ignores the second click. I hope. Make sure that works, actually. Okay, this spams a lot. Oh, but I took those out, so we should be able to just turn this off. Yeah, so when you click a card, it prints the XY coordinates within the grid, and it prints the tuple representation of the card, which the tuple representation is what they talk about in that number file video. I'm just going to click the same card again. Yeah. So you can see some part of the logic is still going. It's printing these, but it's not printing the card again. So it's not actually counting it as like another clicked card. Otherwise, you could just click the same card 3 times and get a set. It'd be kind of funny, actually, but... Okay. I think, what do we want to do now that the cooldown and stuff is fixed? I think let's start getting some 2-player action going on. with the second mouse. And to do that, I have a 2-mouse example somewhere. I did, definitely, because we made memory with 2 mice first. And on the Metro. 330? It's in the future. That's interesting. Huh. It's 2 mice? Mouse 2. But that's not actually 2 mice. 1 mouse. Oh, that might be gone. That would be a shame. Well, okay, it wouldn't be on the Metro. It definitely wouldn't be on the Metro because I didn't have the hub until after I made that. There's memory 2 player, there's memory 2 mice. We could start from there. I swear there's just a 2 mouse one though. Did I drop it on Gist or something? I gotta commit these things somewhere. Oh, double mouse. There it is. Mouse, double mouse. I'm not going to use the color converter one. Yeah, I'm not going to use the color converter one. We have to do a little bit of different stuff here, but we want these 2 lists. We want colors. This is going to get weird. We're going to have 2 buffers also, I think. Because if we use the same buffer, then the debouncing is going to get wrecked. Okay, so we have pink, black, and then white. What I would like to do is remap white to a different color, to one color for each different mouse. I need that. I'm actually going to use different colors here. I don't want to use pink and green because green is already in use and pink is kind of close to red. I'm going to use blue and yellow because they are Python colors and they are not in use by the game cards. And what I'm going to do is make another palette. Just going to call it remap palette. Going to have 5 colors. Well, it's going to have 3 plus length colors. We eventually will leave room for more than 2 players, but I don't think aim for that off the bat. Yeah, should him send a message. I must have been from the 20th, I guess, or I don't know what I did there. From the 20th, or it was actually from February 30th, maybe. I don't know if I had the fruit jam then, though. Or was that on the Metro? Maybe that was the Metro one. So that's going to end up with 5. And what we're going to do is put all the colors that are in the so we want the first 3 colors from the pixel shader and then the last 2 colors from colors. I could do with for loops, but it's like kind of annoying because we still need 2 for loops. I mean, we could do a for loop and an if statement. That's also kind of annoying. I think I'm just gonna do that. So pixel shader is from the mouse bitmap pixel shader so take the colors from the mouse pixel shader, which is the on disk bitmap one. Take those, there's 3 of them, put them into the first 3 slots of the remap palette, and then for the next 2 slots, we have 5 total. For the next 2, that makes no sense. Come on now. We go I plus 3 because we want to start in the 3rd index number 3 and 4, and we're going to set those to the ones from colors. So take the 3 colors from the bitmap palette, put them into the first 3 colors of our remap, then take the 2 colors from the colors list and put them in afterwards. We have 5 colors now, and then finally we can be building up our list. So I'm going to say similarly here, I in range, no, you just made that up. That makes no sense. Here, and we're basically going to do all the same stuff that this does. Although in this code, they don't add it to the main group until all the way down here. We're not going to do that part. We're not going to do the color converter. Instead, this is the remap palette, and it does have 3 input colors. This is the number of input colors. So our input bitmap, which is the mouse bitmap, has 3 colors: pink for transparency, white, and black. Although it's actually black and then white in the order that it is, but so 3 input colors but 5 output colors. And 0 to 0. So I think this was because of the color converter one. I don't think we actually want 0 here. I think we want 1. So we're basically telling the tile palette mapper for tile 0, 0, remap index 0 to be itself 0, remap index 1 to be itself 1, but remap index 2 is actually going to be not colors I, because we need an index inside the remapped palette. Basically what we want is the 2 different colors from our colors list. We need to get a 3 and a 4. So we're going to say I plus 3, because I will be 0 and 1. So 0 plus 3 is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. FruitJam has been coming soon for like 2 months. I've been waiting to get one. However, I don't have a workbench or PC set up, so it wouldn't matter anyway. I'm still at least a week from standing the desktop. Yeah, the Metro RP2350 is the closest thing you could do now. And you can get, like, if you get the Metro and the little USB hub breakout thing, you can essentially do all the same stuff, and the DVI breakout thing. But yeah, it is. I mean, I will say though, coming soon for 2 months. 2 months is not necessarily that long. Although I suppose it depends on your idea of coming soon. Like, I think around 2 months ago is when they dropped that first sort of like teaser render, and I think that was like essentially around the time the board got designed. So there was like design the board, get it manufactured, wait for it to arrive, test it to make sure it even like boots up and does basic electronics, and then start testing the more advanced stuff. But yeah, it is coming. Perhaps even soon, but it depends on your idea of soon. And truthfully, I don't know when it's actually coming either, so I'm not necessarily here to tell you. But I know that all the folks who do have them right now are working on finding bugs and building out software that people will be able to use once they do get their hands on them. And there is a new revision coming. I think I'm pretty sure that Lemore Lady Ada talked about that on Ask an Engineer or Desk Lady Ada, one of the two. I'm pretty sure that she's shown the new version. There's a new revision of the hardware coming as well, which I don't have yet either. But it has internet coprocessor, Wi-Fi, ESP32C6 or something, so it can get on the internet, which I think is going to be super duper sweet. Okay, and then we do want to actually keep the indexes 3 and 4 because we want our blue and our yellow to stay mapped to themselves, even though they're not used. Maybe it doesn't matter, but I think we do anyway. Okay. So that's going to give us one palette mapper where white is remapped to blue, and one palette mapper where white is remapped to yellow. We're going to pin those to our list of palette mappers. That's fine. I don't know if we actually need to keep that in a list, but whatever. We're going to create a tile grid. We're going to say mouse bitmap. We're going to say palette mapper, the one we just created. So again, one tile grid's going to use the blue one tile grid's going to use the yellow one. Put them in the center, append them to the list. This is saying append them to the group. We're not going to do that. Instead, we need to be all the way down here because we want the mice to be on top of everything, right? We want everything else to go below the mice. So for mouse TG in mouse TGs, then we will do this. And we do need to turn these off at some point. And we actually are going to end up wanting lists for these as well, because these, there's going to be a pair of these for each mouse. So let's say indexes equals a list, and yeah, the formatter is like really confused, but that's fine. Here's what we're going to do is we have a list of none, none. So it'll be mouse 1, mouse 2, or 0 and 1 if you want to think of it that way, which I tend to. Okay, so then we're looping over devices that are connected over USB. We want to actually... yeah, so we're going to try to find a mouse endpoint on the current device. And then we're going to store those in there. And then if they're not none, what we're going to do is add them to our lists. And index addresses, that append the address. Mouse equals device. We're not really going to do that. I guess we'll need devices. Yeah, we had mice up here. That's what we'll want. If it's in the store, then soon would be less than a month. Otherwise, hold off putting it in the store. To get shuffled down the list of new products, end up forgetting about it. Can't put it in my cart, end up forgetting to get one. I think it will shuffle back to the top once it's actually available. But I also think that I don't know exactly how all the store stuff works, but I think adding it to the store helps part of the process, basically. Helps get it to the people who are testing it and helps get it into the systems that it's going to ultimately be in anyway. To your point, though, it could potentially be hidden or something. It's kind of just how different companies do it different ways, right? Like Raspberry Pi is pretty notorious for like, we made this new thing and it's available today. I think Apple does it that way too, right? Don't they usually do the keynote and it's like available the next day or whatever? Or the same day or something? I don't actually follow Apple stuff that much. But some companies do more like announce it pretty far out. And then some companies just leave you hanging, announce it like 2 years out, and like maybe it actually comes or maybe it doesn't, which is no good. Seems like they want some games available before it ships. I'm interested in making a game too, like Pong. Yeah, Pong would be cool. Somebody had the idea of 2-mouse Pong, actually. On Blue Sky somewhere. Somebody mentioned the idea of making Pong with 2 mice, which would be pretty cool, using similar technique as all of this. Rotor, like knobs would be cool too, wasn't it? I think one of the original ones had knobs. Be kind of cool. You could use rotary encoders. I think we want to go, we're not going to do this. We're going to do mice.append the device. And then we'll just call it device here. Here. We're going to want 2 buffers. We're going to want 2 buffers, which is going to completely wreck the way this works. Can we pass something to this? Back to debouncer code. Can I like get it to pass something to that function? So if it has value, then set the function equal to like calling the value property function. I think that's what that means. If it does not have the value property, then just store it as function, i.e. assume that it is a function. Because this is either going to get the IO pin or the touch IO object, which have value, or it's going to get a function which does not have value. So then function is there. So then it says just call function set state, unstable state. And every time it calls function, well, I shouldn't do the close, I guess. Every time it, so an update, it calls function, doesn't pass anything. Huh. Okay, so do we modify that to be able to pass something, or do we use like anonymous functions? Lambda functions? Is that a thing Lambda functions can do? I don't actually know. Will UGame games work with it? I forget the game framework name. UGame is one, like UGame stage that the Shippu made. Will that work with it? I'm not sure. I assume yes, but I don't actually know. Yeah, UGame stage is kind of like an alternative display system, an alternative to display IO, essentially. And I think it should work, but yeah, I'm not 100% positive because I believe it basically just, it should be, to the best of my knowledge, it can work with any display type. But possibly that's not true. Possibly there's more to it than that. Something simple to display on the 12 matrix array, which I'm framing and hanging very soon. Nice. 12, yeah, you got lots of pixels there. So do I, like, obviously I could just make another function and it's like buff1, buff2, but that's kind of, Python anonymous function with arguments. Gonna have any idea what I'm talking about? Know if I'm using all of these terms correctly. Argument 1, argument 2 expression. That's not quite what I want. Essentially, I want, I guess, one function that takes an argument and then another function that wraps it. I guess you don't need any special syntax for. So let's make this one take the buffer. And then I guess we'll do def is left mouse 1, is mouse 1 left clicked? Sorry, hopefully that wasn't too loud. Okay, so then we're gonna have mouse buffs is gonna be a list of, in fact, we could do this up here as we're appending. So mouse buffs is a list. We don't really need multiple lines. Mouse buffs is a list. And then for each one of those, in the list, I need to do that twice. In fact, that would crash if we did it twice, I think. New one of those. So make a new array with 4 spots and put it inside of the list of buffers. Class, if you're adding classes to code, think about yeah, this will eventually get refactored probably. There is just randomly a couple of classes in here and functions just scattered all over the place. This is definitely like draft 1 of the code, but there is totally like set card just randomly in this CircuitPy file, which eventually it'll move to its own, but or at least like a set game helpers or something maybe. Mouse buffs, so that we have 2 buffers now. We have both mice visible, hopefully. We want a mouse 2, one of these. And then we're actually gonna have 2 debouncers also. So I guess one thing we could do is move all of these up to here. Again, functions just kind of thrown everywhere. And we could make a mouse bouncers the list. And then say mouse bouncers.append. Oh, but yeah, let's not try to get too fancy, right? Well, we don't need to do that. Let's just say we make it outside the list. We say mouse 1, mouse 2. So we get 2 items in our list. They're debouncer objects. One of them is set to the mouse 1 function. The other one is set to the mouse 2 function. Also, this needs to be 1. Okay. I should have saved the version I started with. It occurs to me. I'm already this far through refactoring it. Fortunate. All right, well, let's power ahead. Okay, I've recently learned this comes with its own bag of trouble, so I'm gonna stop using that actually. I want this. Although this was in milliseconds. It was in milliseconds? Oh man, if this was in milliseconds, then this cooldown was never working anyway. Oh well, debouncer's a better solution, but that's... We don't even really need the time, actually. Do I need the time? Yeah, we're gonna want the time eventually. I don't think I need it right now, though. Really, I don't need the time until I'm gonna be worrying about countdowns. I do think eventually I want a countdown during your turn. So the way it will work is you call set, i.e. you indicate to the game, hey, I think I found a set, and I think that's gonna be right click. And you could just right click anywhere. It's like hitting the button, right? It's kind of like buzzing in for Jeopardy. So you hit right click to say, I found a set, and then you go and you click your 3 cards for your set. I think during your clicking those 3 cards, we'll have a countdown there. That way you can't just like say, hey, I found a set, and then like lock everyone else out and sit and look for a set for 30 seconds or whatever. We'll say you got to click within, 6 seconds or something maybe. But I'm not worried about that just yet. And I don't think we need time until we get there, because I think the time was just being used for the debouncing. And I don't think the debouncing matters because we have a debouncer object now. So I'll comment this out. We'll wrap back around. We do need to be looping over the mice here. So let's say for mouse in mice. We'd probably call that mouse devices, but whatever. Let's do a I as well and put enumerate, because we're probably going to want those indexes eventually. That I index would match up with the player index, right? There's going to be a player 0 and a player 1, so, and they each have their own mouse, so we'll match up pretty well. 6 seconds is oddly specific. Yeah, I mean, it's a multiple of 3. And I want it to be large enough that, I mean, we'll probably play with it and see what feels good, truthfully, but I want it to be large enough that there's time for, like, you don't have to be super Speedy Gonzalez and have insane mousing abilities, but low enough that you can't just, like, call it in order to lock everyone else. Because that's the deal, is, like, when you call set, you're the only one who can click the cards at that point, so no one else is, like, allowed to click cards then. So if it lasted too long, then you just always spam right click whether or not you found a set and try to look for one while the time's running. Although I think we'll do like minus points as well. So the deal will be is if the time runs out and you haven't actually clicked a valid set, then you'll lose a point or something. Datafruit Shop has a list feature that I use for that reason. When a new product comes out, but I'm certain I'll need most, if not all, it goes into the list. I didn't know they had a list, actually. That'd be kind of cool. List? I should find that too, actually. Because there are times where I want to save, stuff. Occasionally, I just put it in my cart and try to leave it there, but I actually found, I think the cart emptied itself out. But maybe it was like my browser sessions being weird or something. Maybe I was in the wrong browser or something. All right, so we're looping through the mice. So for each mouse, so we can not just do endpoint address. It needs to be, I could have kept that, but that's fine. Addresses, and then I, in fact, there's a use of I right there. Probably shrink this for now. So buff is going to be mouse buffs. I again. Mouse TG is actually mouse TG's I. And that's mouse buff's I. Whoa, what on earth just happened there? Why, what? That's not even the same thing. That was weird. Okay. So then this is, we're gonna do mouse 1. We're gonna do bouncers. Update. And then this is mouse debouncers I rows. Last click time. Again, we're not doing that right now, so I'm just gonna comment it. We should probably just save mouse TG inside of here, honestly. Yeah. But we need it whether or not we got data from the mouse, so we need to do it up here. I'm gonna say mouse TG equals mouse TG's I. Means actually we could go back to doing this, and I'm gonna do that because it makes the code nicer. We could get mouse buff as well, I suppose. But I don't think we'd... Well, I don't know. We'll see. But that's going to give us mouse TG, which means the rest of this code here can stay the same. So coordinates, adjusted coordinates, which cell contains... Okay. So I think right now, like, both mice are playing on the same team. Like, if one mouse were to click a card and then the other mouse were to click a card, they're gonna count both cards as part of the same set for the same player, which is not how it's supposed to be. But I think maybe that the two mice will actually render and move. So let's plug in a second mouse and see if that's the case. It is the off switch, not the... Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Shouldn't... Oh, okay, I found it. I'm gonna hopefully use this as an opportunity to learn my lesson and not just leave random tiny mouse dongles on my desk. I should have totally put that somewhere. Either back in the mouse actually is the answer. This is where I should have put it. Okay. Two mice are plugged in. I'm gonna go to REPL. I'm gonna save CodePy. It's really more of a dictionary. I was forget about lists, yeah. You put coming soon items in a cart. You can't put coming soons. I gotcha. I'm out of here for today. Workbench won't build itself. Have a great weekend. Yep, take it easy, DJ Devin. Have a good weekend for yourself as well. So let's run this. Control D. Does it crash? Yes. Mapping length must be 0 to 3. What's up, Gordy G? With each mouse, will it have its own pointer? Yes, that's the idea. Yep, that's the goal. Which is how the two mouse example that I started from works, is like you have two mouse connected and then two cursors of two different colors and they both move around. So this is probably the tile palette mapper. Oh, we have input length of 3, which means our mapping should only be 3, not 5. Our output length, the length of our output palette is 5. We're mapping to indexes 3 and 4, which are technically, 4 and 5. But we should only have 3 things. I just got here. Yeah, nice to have you as well. I didn't actually show, for what it's worth, I didn't actually show that script on this one. I was using that. In fact, it's over here still, double mouse. I didn't actually run it, though, this time on this stream. Can't convert none to int 307. Convert none to int. Probably this is not having a number in it. I think we created those lists with none, but oh, okay. Maybe we didn't find both mice. Let's print addresses and indexes. Oh, you know what? I did turn it off. I wonder if it doesn't connect. Did I turn it back on? It is actually off right now. I wonder if that would stop it from showing up. This version will print out what it found. If it found anything. Oh, yeah. We can't append those. We need to be setting them, or I guess we should start with empty. I mean, we really kind of want to start with none because there's other logic that's checking for none, I thought. Well, that's here, though. Is there anywhere else? Why would I drag single underscore? Haven't been around lately, obsessing elsewhere. I gotcha. We need to check. It's none. The code used to be, but maybe we can get by without that. Okay. Yeah, so we have mouse 1, mouse 2. They have pink boxes, but I can move them both, and then this is my PC mouse, right? So this is OBS capturing. So these are the only two mouse that are in CircuitPython. Those both appear to be working. We'd probably go with a brighter blue, and we'll also need to get the pink to be transparent. So let's do that. Why is this red now? What have I done? Oh. Hold on, does that still run? Okay. Pink. So we need to say make transparent on the remap palette. That's all. That's easy. 0 should be pink, I think. Yep, there we go. Okay, yellow and blue. Yeah, the blue is definitely way too dark. We want to do a lighter blue. Maybe we should do teal? I don't know. Let's just aim for a lighter blue. So maybe like, what would it look like with maybe like 8s? What would that look like? Yeah, that's not very blue at all anymore. Maybe we want a little bit more green than red? Cyan? Yeah, I was thinking cyan. I oftentimes call that teal. I don't know if I said teal a minute ago. Okay, so that happens and we just need to reset for now. Eventually that will get fixed in the core potentially. Or I think it's actually maybe not the core, but tiny USB or something. Not sure how well that works. There's a nice blue. Maybe still tad brighter might be nice still though. So I wonder if we did something like that. Yeah, I think I like that. It's nice and visible. On both the cards, I mean, if you park it right on top of a green, it can kind of blend in, but when it's against the black, it's visible. When it's against the white, it's visible. Pretty visible against the colors as well. Like no room to... Okay, let's see if clicking works. So like I said before, I'm pretty sure that technically both mice are kind of like controlling one player here. So here's a set, right? Three round striped red, 3 purple striped red, no, 3 purple striped round, and 3 green striped round. So that's a set. So I'm going to click. I'm just going to use the same mouse to see if that works. And then let's try to find a set with the other mouse. Ah, I gotcha, teal. Yeah. I often don't use words necessarily strictly correctly. So no, that is not. Okay, this is a set right here because count 1 diamond, count 1 diamond, count 1 diamond, 3 different colors, 3 different fills. So click, and we got it. Okay. And so then I think that mixing and matching would actually be a thing right now. So if we were to... I don't really see any other sets, and it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to click this with the yellow mouse, and then I'm going to click this with the green, with the blue mouse, and that did work, yeah. And then I'm just going to click another one, and then we got valid set false down there. So it tried to validate those 3 as though they were from the same player. Okay, so we've got our 2 mice in. they're visible. They can both click cards. They both technically work. We want to make the kind of calling set, I think, next. So the way that's going to work is a right click, I think. Which, do we need to debounce that? I don't think we do need to debounce it because it's going to be intrinsically debounced by the fact that it's going to be intrinsically debounced by the fact that it can say, it's going to say like when the right mouse gets clicked, if there is not currently a player already who called set, essentially, like who has the floor, so to speak, who has the baton. And that will debounce it. It doesn't matter if the mouse itself keeps spamming that the right button is clicked. So we do need a thing I'm going to call active player. And that's going to be none by default. And then it's going to change to either 0 or 1 whenever one of the players calls set by right-clicking. And then once we get into the idea of them running out of time, when they ran out of time, that would set it back to none. And then also, once they click a set, that would set it back to none as well. Or if they click 3 that aren't a set, essentially, once they take their turn, kind of how it goes. So this is like the game is kind of like an interesting mix of real time, but turn-based. Like at its core, it's real time because everyone's looking at the same time and you can all like kind of race to call set to buzz in. But then once you do buzz in, it's like turn-based because you take your turn and do your thing, and then it goes back to real time after your turn is over. So what we will do is this is all separate from the rest of this stuff. So we're going to say we could make one of these, though. I will make one of these. Is right mouse button clicked. And the way that works, I'm pretty sure, is that 0? But I don't actually remember for 100% certain. So I'm going to go to the place where I know to find it, which is in the core inside of tests, manual, USB. Yeah. So that's got it inside of a for loop where it's doing 0, 1, and 2. And 0 is the left click. 1 is the right click, and 2 is the middle click. So we only care about right click and left click. We already have left click working. We want index 1, so we're going to say the 1 is right here. That will take a buffer. It will return true or false. Okay. So then what we'll do is, as we're looping over the mice, we will say if active player is none, it's real time, but melee yeah, there you go. But melee time freezes when while you tell the DM what you're doing. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, or a good analogy, I should say. Yeah, it's like, Okay, so if that's none and the right mouse is clicked for the current mouse's buffer, so mouse buffs I. So if the current mouse is right clicked and if the active player is none, then we're gonna go active player equals I. So that's just gonna be the index of that player. And then also, I think here is when we should start doing the state machine. So I have mapped out in some notes all the way up here. Very, very, very brief notes, but notes nonetheless, the states for the state machine. And there is an open play state and a set called state. And that is where we are basically up to. So let's make those things. State title, state, I'm gonna call this playing open, state playing set called, and then state game over. And I don't, maybe there's more states we need eventually, but those are the only 4 I listed. We are gonna have a cur state, which will start on, I don't have a title screen yet, so I'm actually just going to cheat and start on the open play state. Okay. Let me shrink this. What? Oh, a hot latte? No. Okay. So we actually only care about the right clicks. If cur state equals state playing open, that's when we're going to do the right clicks. And then when someone does right click, we're actually going to change the state to state playing set called. And do we want to update those? I don't. Oh, I think we just ignore. I think we just ignore all left clicks. But are they going to stack up in the background? I don't know how that works. We'll see if it causes trouble. So then here we're going to say elif cur state equals playing set called. Then we do all of this stuff, but we also are going to do one more thing, which is so if set was called, then we only care about the active player, basically. So we could actually just say if I equals active player. I am gonna get rid of the stuff up here because the code is actually working, and I'm not sure what all this was, but I don't think it's needed anymore. We only do that stuff for the active player. Eventually we'll have a thing that says which player is active. But okay, so right now if I were to just mouse and left click a card, it should not work. Yeah, it's just ignoring my left click there. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna right click with the blue mouse. I didn't add any printouts, but theoretically active player is now blue mouse. And so if I click a card, it works. If I click a card, it works. And if I click a card, it works. And then we don't actually have any logic to go back to open, which we'll need. But for now, if I go yellow mouse and click, it will ignore. Yeah, because we don't have that logic, and that's perfect. So blue mouse is active. Blue mouse is kind of stuck on active. Here's a set. We could say green, outline, diamond 1, red, filled, diamond 2, purple, striped, diamond 3. And then that counted. Okay. So now we need to change back to open play at the end of the turn, and we also need to set the active player back to none. So let's go to wherever the set gets validated, which is where? Inside of here. Valid set. So if the set, so here we're checking, so we know we've clicked 3 cards and we're checking whether the 3 cards are a valid set or not. The technique I use to do that comes from that number file video. If anyone missed the beginning of the stream, I still have that tab? You still have, yeah, this number file video talking about the game of set has this numerical description of the game which the code is using, and they also have a technique for testing 3 different cards to decide whether or not they make up a set. And that's what the code does here inside of this function. And so we only do that when we get to 3, and we're saying if it's a valid set, we do one thing, else if it's a invalid set, we do another thing. And I think in both cases, I mean, in fact, we already have these 2 things which are repeated. We could just put these outside, and then we don't even need the else. I'm going to keep it, actually. I think this is kind of nicer, even though it repeats code. What we're going to do is put the state back. So cur state open, and also the active player none. Yeah, and again, I think we could refactor this to these being outside the if statement and just not having an else, but I in my head, the if else here actually makes the code more clear, truthfully, even though it's repeating this block of 4 things. Okay, so now it should go back to open play when the player who's active clicks 3 things. So let's go blue mouse, right click. I just did that. Again, we don't have prints still. And yeah, here's where I did the thing where I right clicked even though I don't have a set. So this is what the countdown will eventually prevent, but right now we don't have that, so we'll take advantage of it. No, that one's not. No. No. I don't see any. I'm just gonna click 3. We got valid set false. And so theoretically, if I just left click now, nothing should happen. So if I click 3 more, it's not testing. And then it's now back to open. So if I were to right click, so if I were to left click actually with yellow mouse, it gets ignored. But if I were to right click with yellow mouse, then yellow mouse should be the active player. And so they should be able to say click 1, click 2, click 3, valid set false, and then we should be back to open. So click is ignored, click is ignored. Perfect. Okay. Sweet. What is next? Ooh. Let's try to make a way to show which cards have been clicked. Because right now when you click the cards, in the code they become clicked cards. They go in a list, but visually nothing happens. And it'd be nice if something visual happened. What do I want though? So the first idea that came to mind, I think somebody on the chat had this last time, was a border. Might have been talking about the memory game, though. I don't remember for sure. Border is a compelling idea. Yeah. I think we'll do border, I guess. Yeah, I think we'll do border. I hesitate slightly because I did happen to read a comment somewhere where someone said they made a alternative version of the game where they actually added a 5th property. So by default in the game, there's 4 properties: color, count, shape, and fill. They added a 5th property, which was essentially they bought 3 decks, and then on one of the decks, they colored in solid outlines. On one of the decks, they colored in just the corners, and then on the third deck, they left it plain with no marking on the edges. And so then the outline, the border, the edges became a 5th property. And at one point I was like, maybe it'd be cool if we could add that in the code version too, as an option, not as the default, but an option. But that might be getting ahead of myself. Honestly, I don't know that I'll do that. So I think the border for the colors of the player is going to be fine. And then the reason why I hesitate based on that is if I do a border for the players, then it will be kind of awkward to also do a border for the actual card color. But we could figure out something maybe if we really needed to. Yeah. So in order to make a background, well, I'm calling it a background, a border, the border visually is going to go around the outside of the card. But it's actually going to be bigger than the card, and it's just going to be a rectangle that's behind it. And in order to do that, we actually need to change some stuff around. So right now we have set card, which extends tile grid. And right now in my card grid, I have added the set card objects. They're coming from this starting pool, but those are the set card objects, which again are tile grids. So if I want to be able to put a thing behind a tile grid, I actually need a group. So then the question becomes, do we change set card to extend group and then have a tile grid and put it inside the group? Or do we keep set card as tile grid and just put a group inside of the grid? I think I want to change set card to be a group instead of a tile grid. Then it will have the tile grid and it will be a group, and then therefore it can always append a solid rectangle behind the tile grid, and that will make a border. Yeah. All right. I do have to run to the restroom, so I'll be right back. Okay. Yeah, I think the reason I want to change this to a group is so that setCard, the class, can still have like the tuple property, which is what I'm using in the validate function. Because when validate is called, effectively, we have just grabbed cards out of the grid. So when the left click happens, first thing we do is ask the grid which cell contains the XY coordinates that were clicked. It's either going to tell us none of the cells contain them, or it's going to give us the indexes like 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, whatever, whichever cell of the grid the mouse was in. If that is not none, then we go and we say get content, which means give me the object that was at that cell, which in our case is the set card object right now, at least. And so if set card extends group, then this can still be the set card object. But if set card stays on tile grid, then we actually would be adding a group as the content. And so we would need to say get content, and then we would need to get the set card out of the group. Which is like not impossible, but it is an extra step. And instead, I think it would be nice to encompass the group. And then that way we'll be able to just set the background to it more easily. That will extend group. This is going to be now tile grid equals tile grid, pass in, or yeah, I'm still gonna accept the tile grid arguments though, which is like super funky, but that's how I'm gonna do it. We will say super dot init for the group, and we're just not gonna give it any arguments, so default. And then what we will do is say self dot append, so put the tile grid in the self instance of group. And then I think it just works from there, maybe. No, layer must be group or tile grid subclass. So 142. State card attributes calls 150. card attributes. So self.tuple, self.mapper. Oh, right. So this won't be self.0 anymore. This will be self.tilegrid. That should be all that needs, I think. Yeah, there we go. Okay, we have cards visible. Let's make sure the clicking and stuff still works. It's not going to, though, because... This actually kind of wrecks us. Well, one small part of the way we were telling what got clicked. So when we click cards, the way it was working, like I said a minute ago, the first, there's actually kind of two checks, essentially. The first thing we do is ask the grid which cell contains the coordinates that were clicked. But the cell is actually bigger than the card, so the mouse could click inside of a cell and not be clicking a card, technically. And so that first check is just getting the cell that contains the click, but not necessarily guaranteeing it's on a card. Then we get the content from the grid, which is our set card, so it would be our group if we're changing it. And then we say clicked cell content.contains. Well, first of all, group doesn't have a contains, so that's not going to work. I don't think it does, at least. If it does, then it's like a list style contains, not a mouse click style contains or an XY contains like we're trying to do anyway, at least. So we need to say tilegrid, right? Clicked cell content.tilegrid contains. But that's no longer going to work because now the tile grid is in the group, which means that the tile grid's X and Y coordinates are 0, 0 inside of its own group. Well, they're going to change to be 1, 1 or 2, 2, depending on how big we want the border to be. But okay, so we need a contains on set card class. And we can't just defer to tile grid contains because the tile grid will be at XY 0, 0 or 1, 1, which represents its location within its group, but that doesn't help when it comes to figuring out where the mouse was. So def contains coordinates. I don't know. I will spell it out because I think I used the variable chords. So contains coordinates, and we can still figure it out. We just need to use the X and Y of the group along with the tile width of the tile grid. And we know the width and the height will be 1, 1. We just need the tile width and the tile height. I'm not going to bother with too much error checking, honestly. So we're just going to say if self.x is less than or equal to coordinates x, which is going to be 0, and if that coordinates x is less than or equal to self.x plus self.tilegrid.tile width. So if that is true and that stuff pretty much. Self.y less than coordinates y, and then coordinates y less than self Y, so group Y plus tile grid, tile height. Yes, okay. If both of those are true, we return true. Say return. And I think we need this probably. Okay. Maybe that will still work. And that's also kind of nice because now down here we don't have to worry about trying to say like clicked cell content.tilegrid or anything. We actually just have contains on the set card, which we know is what is coming out of our grid. Okay. So right click, call set, left click a card, and that said 3-0, which is correct because I'm actually skipping this column here, so it's 0, 1, 2, 3 X and then 0 Y because it's the top row. So that worked. I don't actually have a set. I'm just going to click 3 things and it says set false. Back to not being able to click now. So let me try to actually find a set so that we can confirm that part still works. No, can't do that. Can't do that. Does this button work? Is it? Actually, it might be waiting for you to take active and then? Yeah, okay. So it's actually only letting the active player click no set. So that should change actually. The code for no set should actually be in the open play and not the active player. But anyway, I do want to try to find a set and see if it works. So can we do that yet? So we have, okay, so here's the set. We have all reds, all twos, all different shapes, diamond, squiggle, round, and then all different fills, striped, outline, solid. So click, 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 and it worked. And we got 3 new cards. Awesome. All right, let's do fix that no set button. And then the other thing that we'll want to do eventually still is no set should be a consensus, like I was saying a while back. Right now, it's just whenever the button gets clicked, it does an action. What we really want is whenever everyone has clicked the button. When one player clicks the button, they're like voting to say, you know, I call no set. And then only once everyone has called no set, then we actually deal additional cards. Is what we want ultimately. But let's work on one thing at a time, which is right now, we are just going to take the no set button, click listener, logic, all of this stuff. We're going to cut that and we're going to bring it up to the, I have so much empty space here. Let's clean that up a bit. We're just going to put that in the open. Yeah, we're going to put that in the open state. So if playing is open, oh, is that okay? No, we need to check clicked still, which means we need to be doing the debouncer still as well. So is that going to get wrecked if we do it out here? I don't know. But we definitely need to do it somewhere where it will happen for this as well. And in fact, we need to be checking it. So we need to say mouse debouncer rows. So if it rows, i.e. left was clicked, and if the coordinates are inside the no set button. And then this is doing it for all the mice because it's inside the for loop here. So it will check all mice. And again, right now it just takes action immediately, but that's okay for the moment. So blue, I should be able to click no set. And it crashes. Okay, 346. We got no chords. Yeah. We don't need the adjusted chords. The adjusted chords are only for the card grid, and it's basically solving the same problem as that contains function that I did before, which is the fact that tile grids, when they're inside of a group, they're not aware of their parent group's location, and therefore they're not aware of their own location on the screen, because their own location is impacted by their parent group's location. I mean, I guess we could do these in two different steps. Like, we could say if the mouse was clicked, and then we get the coordinates, and then we check if the coordinates are inside. That would save us from, like, creating this tuple every time. But I don't know if it matters, so I'm going to try like this first. All right, yeah, so no set works with blue. Should work with yellow also. Yeah. All right, 6 minutes left. Do we want to try to do the consensus? I don't think I want to try to do the consensus in 6 minutes. Yeah. Because basically what we'll need is another list. A list that will store the indexes of all the players who have clicked no set. And then whenever a player does click no set, we'll check the list and we'll see if it contains all the players. And if it does, then we'll take action. That's actually, now that I say it out loud, it sounds doable in 6 minutes. So let's give it a try. I will call this no set called player indexes. That's like very long, but can you add the coordinates to get the actual screen coordinates, or it's just trivia? Yes, yeah. So the way that that gets handled, yeah, the problem I was just talking about with the grid is handled with adjusted. It's just subtracting out the card grid, which in this case is the group, essentially, the parent group. Card grid is a grid layout. Grid layout extends group, so it behaves the same, where its position on the screen factors into its children's position on the screen, but its children aren't privy to its position. And so, yeah, I'm just getting the adjusted coordinates by factoring out the X and Y of the parent group, subtracting them there. And then adjusted coordinates are what gets passed to clicked cell contains. Which is right, because we have the same, we're now like 2 layers deep of the same thing, essentially. Now we have children groups, which don't know their parent, the grid. They don't know their grid parent's location. And then we have tile grids inside of those groups, which don't know their parent's location, nor do they know the grid's location. And technically right now they're at 0, 0. So the in-between group and the tile grid are actually at the same XY. But that tile grid doesn't know that. And they'll change eventually, because I'll move the tile grid down and over by like 1, 1 so that we can have the border, which is actually what I was working on before, but that's fine. We'll do the consensus, I think. So when the border, I think, is still going to be a bit tricky, even though I have the groups in place now. So what we'll do is when the play is open and someone has clicked the no set button, what we are going to do is, if I is not in the no set called player indexes, we add it. So first of all, we don't care if you clicked no set button twice. And then what we do is I'm actually just going to say if the length of this... What's up there? Friend on Twitch. The blue on black is a little tough for me to read. Is it Lucida? Lucida? Sorry if I mispronounce your name, but thanks for joining in over on the Twitch chat there. I will say I am about to wrap up, so we don't have too much time left, but I do appreciate you popping in, and feel free to subscribe if you like programming and or CircuitPython, microcontroller-y, Python-y type stuff. You can call you Lewis. Nice. Thanks, Lewis. I appreciate you tuning in. All right, so we're going to say if the length of that actually is equal to 2, because then we'll know that both players are in it. It comes from Keitano, which is your surname. Oh, I got you. Okay, nice. All right, so if that is 2, then we know that both players have called no set, and so then that's when we're going to take action, which means we can basically just put all of this stuff inside of that. And then the other thing we want to do is when we do take action, we're going to empty that back out. So no set called player indexes, we're going to put that back to an empty list. Okay, so when they right-click, or not right-click, but rather when they click on no set, their index gets added to the list. If they're the second one to click, so right now we're on 2 players, so if they're the second one to click, if the other person already clicked, then this will be 2. We'll reset this to empty, and we'll go and take action, i.e. add cards and or re-deal. All right, so I'll test this, and then I'll probably head out. So let's say blue mouse is going to click no set, and nothing happens at first, and then yellow mouse is going to click no set, and then it should go. Nice, okay, and then if yellow mouse were to click it right now, nothing will happen. Well, not nothing, it gets added to the list, but nothing visual. And so now if blue mouse clicks, then that's all players, and we get an actual action. Okay, sweet. That appears to be working. All right, I think that's going to do it for today. We got pretty far along in this game. Obviously, there's still a fair amount of work to do, but we got the second player in, which I'm pretty stoked about, and a lot of the behavior around when set is called and not called, which involved the state machine and all kinds of fun stuff there. So yeah, if you're interested in this game, keep an eye out for the Learn Guide. It is not in the writing process yet, so I got to finish the code, and then I'll start the guide, and then the guide will go through moderation. So we're a couple of weeks out or so, maybe a week or 2 at least out, but the guide will be out there eventually. Are you trying to make a game? Yes, I am implementing the game. It's a card game called Set. Set card game. I'll drop the Wikipedia link here. I'll also drop this YouTube, because again, this YouTube explains the game, and as a bonus, this YouTube explains the numerical representation of the game that the code is actually using. The code that I'm writing uses the numerical representation from this video. So yeah, it's a card game that has existed for a while, I think since the 80s. 70s, actually. Well, maybe it officially became a business, it looks like, in the 90s. I think she was selling them in the 80s. There's a video there's like a video interview of the lady who invented this game. They were talking about, I think, 1988. She made the first ones. You've played the card game. Yeah, from what I understand, it's a fairly popular game. I don't recall ever running across it personally. But now that I have started, this came as an idea from PT and Lady Ada, I think, during one of our meetings, and a bunch of the folks on the Adafruit team had played it and knew about it. It was new to me, but once I started looking into it, I found that it does seem to be a pretty popular thing. Fun to watch the progress. Thanks for the stream. Yep, take it easy, C. Grover. Thanks for hanging out, folks in the Discord, C. Grover and DJ Devin. Gordy G, thanks for hanging out on the YouTube. And also, Lewis, thanks for hanging out on Twitch. I will be back next week at the normal time, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Central Time. So that's about 2 hours ago is when I started, and I usually stream for around 2 hours each week on Saturday around the same time, 10 a.m. Central. So I'll be back next week. I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend and a good day and all of that, and I will see you later. Thanks for watching. That is the wrong OBS. There we go.